go ahead and move on to our 7.2. All right. Consideration of behavioral health fiscal recovery plan and request for loan repayment extension. Behavioral Health Services Director, Hlth Jones.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Johanna, I will pull up there's an attachment, and it's a PDF. I apologize, I could have logged in. But in the meantime, I did have some comments, and I wanted to reflect back to when I was in the board here in June on the 12th. And at that time, I had asked for a 12-month extension because we had insight that it was very unlikely we would be able to resolve that loan sooner. And so effectively, since then, we've engaged in our own internal audit. We've involved the Department of Healthcare Services. We've involved expert technical assistants and consultants to conduct a complete deep dive. They've probably spent, I actually added all the time up, and since we started working with Boston Consulting Group, they've had 40 hours of FaceTime in 1 month. So they've been here, they've been going through the things that aren't kept online, right? Even our auditing books, all things like that. And so this recommendation to extend the loan to the end of the fiscal year comes with a lot of research and a lot of transparency already. I've also been in communication with the California Behavioral Health Directors Association because the issues that we're facing are not unique to Lake County, unfortunately. And part of the strange and painful outcome of being ahead of the curve, because that's what it turns out that we are, is that you hit a lot of bumps before anybody else. And that is not a new situation for us. However, I'm very confident in our ability to find all the levers. That's one of the fun terms that I've learned from the consultant, is we're looking for all of the levers that we can pull. And I'm here today to hopefully really reassure you that every lever that I can think of that I can pull, I have pulled. Again, including going to the highest levels of DHCS leadership and being very transparent about our position and our needs. Also, I've been in not constant, but frequent communication with our administrator, right? Our administrator's office. And of course, I am very grateful for the cash position that the county has maintained for the general fund. I think it's been it's a good place to be in, and so I understand wanting to defend that. And I would just ask your board to consider that that $2 million loan is a really significant and meaningful investment in people's lives and well-being and safety. Do you need it? Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. And to reframe it as that, and of course I've been, if there were a strain directly, or I think even indirectly, on using these reserve funds, that's where these ultimately came from, and the general fund was an IT reserve account, I'm sure that the administrator's office would have helped us find other solutions. And so I say that to say, I don't think that I think the general fund can weather that. Respectfully, I know that's not my animal, right? But we've been in communication and we have pulled nothing back. And so I do have a presentation that I've prepared, or actually you can see we've done it with the Boston Consulting Group. And I'm not sure if you'd prefer me to go through it, or my preference would be actually to just field any specific questions you may have. However, I'm more than happy to go through it page by page. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I read over it. I think it's really, you did a great job on this presentation. It's very thorough. I did not know that you were working so closely with Boston Consulting Group. Like, that's an incredible investment of resources too. It is on. It really lays out how critical these funds are until we can get through the next 9 months. The services that we need to continue to deliver so that we can continue to deliver. I do think that we can extend this loan. I'm all in favor of that because this is really about, making sure that we continually get services to the people that need them most. We have made progress in this area, and I can't imagine sliding back on that progress when we know that there is an end of sight and that we have been really well supported through this with BCG. So it's all that we can ask for. Like you really have done an incredible job with this and gathering up the reports and the evidence to support that this is short term, and we will be able to repay. You will be able to repay this from the general fund. So I'm okay not going through the presentation because I read through it, but that's just my opinion.
Supervisor Owen, and then Vice Chair.
Okay. I was wondering about your graph went back as far as 2019, 2020, and it was around $7.5 million. Prior to that, did that include some of the COVID relief funds? When was increased? Because now there's a big decrease, but it didn't go back to prior to COVID to show if that was the funding that was coming in at that time had been increased over COVID. I know that there was a lot of funds attached at that time.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Owen, can you clarify which specific graph you're looking at?
I'm looking at, let me
What is
see.
the title of it?
I think that was the one, right?
Right, yeah, yes, yeah.
reserves?
Yep.
Okay, so the short answer to your question is no. So the Behavioral Health Department, in terms of COVID monies, we receive from the state ARPA, I think American Rescue Plan Act, and CARSA, and I'm not going to, so those were our COVID monies. And the county itself, the general fund, I think, received the majority of COVID monies. And so we did see some here and there. Primarily, those COVID monies were invested into the purchase of our electronic health record. And so that was beautiful timing.
But it's not in your regular.
No, and so this is really talking about the amount of reserves. We've had very robust reserves. We've maintained a good cash position at, about $7 million, a little over $7 million, which has been great. And so what this shows, and we did take a dip in COVID, but not too significantly. And so what this shows at the beginning of that electronic health record transition, which was in March of 2023. And then just a few months later, on July 1st, we also had this entire reform of our payment structure. In hindsight, would I have been a pilot county for our electronic health record again? Probably not. That's a lesson learned because that cost us. And while we were certainly in a position to drive that record, and it had, we take a lot of ownership over it at this point because we really co-developed it in many ways. It took a cost. And so that cost is not just on, right? And so it took time because we couldn't get any revenue in because the migration of data from the old system to the new system was flawed.
Okay.
And we had to go back and forth, and it took a long time. And then when we finally got it up and working, we also had to navigate through some significantly different mechanics of payment flow and cash flow with the state. And the reason why Boston Consulting Group even entered the picture is because the state had a wise moment and said, hey, there's a lot of unknown unknowns that are being surfaced right now with this whole thing. And I think we really need to get a better handle of it. And so I was really grateful. In fact, Marlise Perez, who is she's in DHCS leadership, and significantly, we were just at a integrated care conference, and we were being recognized for our great work with mobile crisis and with being a peer employer. And so I actually had an in-person conversation with her to introduce, hey, here's some things that are going on that are surfacing for us, and basically, can I please use this team courtesy of DHCS? And she agreed.
Nice.
And so, like I said, every lever that I can think of to pull, but essentially, without our cash reserves, we wouldn't have been able to sustain contracted services. We wouldn't have been able to make payroll. Not only that, but we obviously grew services by 66%. There was 66% more Medi-Cal billable services than there in an 18-month period. And that number is probably low because the truth is, and I am a clinician, not everybody finishes their notes. It's a fact, right? And so you see some attrition in billing just from that. So if I were really going to guess, I would say 75% of growth, which I think you can feel in our community. I am starting to feel the tide turn. And so this isn't really a matter of, scaling back. It is like level setting. We have some major level setting to do, but we've brought on the best of the best. And I am very confident that with this support, we can actually come back in 10 weeks with a very clear, articulated roadmap of what it will take to move forward with very specific numbers.
I think your next slide is actually your growth. The next slide.
Indeed.
Yes. And I had, and so basically what my other question was, is this going to be, with the revenues dropping a bit, is it something that is it going to be sustainable, is what I was looking for.
Yes. So we've also uncovered a lot of mechanical issues with payment reform. And I think we're co-discovering that, honestly, with the state, because it also depends on the aid codes and the share of costs from the county, which is a very complex algorithm. But some services are entirely subsidized by the state general fund and require no local funding. That includes mobile crisis. Mobile crisis benefit is entirely state general funded as the local match to the feds. However, when they push that money back, they won't release any of the money until your IGT balance is sufficient, whether or not you had to use local funds to get those services. And so that's something we can actually pull a lever out with DHCS. That's really critical. That's a huge moneymaker for us. It is a robust rate. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics here that are very complex, and hence, I do want to come back. I think that, we've talked with the consultant. We've estimated 10 weeks is the time it's going to take to do this deep dive work, and continuing to work alongside the state and CBHDA, because there are honestly some points of advocacy here. There has been a lot of ask of the county, and I'm proud to say that we've delivered. And at this point, my call back to them is, hey, we're going to need some support. And so far, they have provided that support.
Thank you.
Yes.
Vice Chair?
Yeah, I'm okay not going through the whole presentation. I appreciate you sending that to us days ahead of when we usually get the agenda, so we had more time to process that. And I also appreciate you discussing it and providing that same information at the last week's Behavioral Health Advisory Committee meeting. So that was helpful for me as well. And at this point, I don't have concerns about this plan.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, appreciate you bringing this to us. I have a different perspective than my colleagues at this moment in time. I did a deep dive review starting in March of 2024 of when this began, and you and I exchanged an email, and there seems to be agreement that it's an evolved situation. First, we were told the state's holding our money because they're not paying out the claims. Then it became an IGT issue of now we have to have money up front in order to do the match. And now there's a new issue in the sense of we're learning that we need to have more match, and or the way we're claiming is not, or the way we financially set ourselves up was believed to be infinite, but it's not, it's finite because it's based on local matching funds, which at one point I know I heard the comment because I had mentioned that we used to have a contract with the state of California on how much money we can spend on services. I think it was $33 million or in that range at one point in time. I asked if we're about to breach that, and I was told that it is now unlimited. I struggled to understand how that's possible, especially from a beast like Los Angeles. To say unlimited to them is a vastly different situation than unlimited to us. And I just don't, I never saw how that would be possible. And each time I feel we get a very similar response of, yes, it will be solved. Like last time in June, we were told because of this was just to fund money that needed to be up front to deal with the IGT, that in 3 months, absolutely, this will be solved. That was maybe not the exact quote, but it was around that type of statement that was made. But yet here we are, we're asking for 9 more months. And I feel like we're just kind of rinsing and repeating and just kind of doing the same thing, but not necessarily getting headway. I also don't want to hurt the department, and I also don't want to hurt the services, but there's something has to happen. So here's the option I would like to provide. I think that general dollars are monies that we have received directly from our constituents. I think that needs to be paid back. I'd like to look at using opioid settlement, which is not our local folks' taxes, and seeing if a loan can be made from the opioid settlement to behavioral health in order to accommodate the $2 million so they don't have to be hurt by any of our actions of trying to recoup our $2 million. Because we are losing money every single day by not having that $2 million back. So there is a hit to the general fund. There's a hit to the overall revenues that we can make based on the fact that it's not in our investment portfolio or being used for other purposes. So that's number one. Number two, I think I have grave concerns, especially with all the information that was provided within this memo and the presentation. As you all know, I voted against the budget because I have concerns that we anticipate way too high of a revenue and we don't have the funding for the appropriations. I'm not saying that that's become very clear here with the memo, but it's also that we need to put a little bit more skin in the game. I would like to direct staff to say, we need to look at using the 24-25 budget as a starting point next week when we do final budget and not continuing along a path that may or may not lead to more problems, because whether we say, no, we're not going to spend the money or no, we're not going to get the money, the fact is if we approve a budget, that means it's approved for it to be used in such a way. And I'll finish in a second. And last one is, this is 18 months in the making. And I think that there needs to be an ad hoc committee to review what is being proposed by BCG, what is being proposed when it talks about in the memo about reviewing some of the contracts and some of these things in order to ensure that there is a group mind in solving this, because I just see this as we're going to see another extension. That's what I see it as. So I'll end there. That's my proposal, because I cannot approve just doing another 9 months.
All right. Go ahead, Stephen.
Stephen Carter, Assistant County Administrative Officer. In response to one of Bruno's number 2 regarding the budget for fiscal year 25-26, administration did agree with that, and we talked with Hlth and Behavioral Health. We are presenting for final budget, actually, it's not exactly a ditto of fiscal year 24-25 because certain accounts can't do that, but almost exactly a ditto of 24-25, which lowers it $14 to $16 million. So it does bring it down in line with what we know financially can be handled while everything is worked out and the plan is created. And then at mid-year, we can take a look. If there is a good plan, we can adjust, or it might be good where it is. So that's already been taken care of, and we're going to present for $14 to $16 million lower budget for behavioral health.
All right. Did you have something to add?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I am open to exploring options of relief through the opioid settlement funds that are legal, durable, and compliant. My initial review is that those funds are heavily restricted. And I am going, obviously, to do a lot more research, and I will involve DHCS and I will involve BCG. However, I am not very confident at this point that that is acceptable use of those funds. And I want to follow the law, right? I have to. And yes, I do realize that those are constituent taxpayer dollars. And I would really implore your board to consider that our constituents would value the investment of services that you've seen our department deliver. And I would also implore you to consider that this is incredibly complex, that we have involved DHCS and been incredibly transparent. They're the experts and authors of all of this change that we've had to endure and expand upon. And to honor the request that I came in June 12th with, to please extend until the end of the fiscal year to allow us to resolve this now that we have all these effective resources in place to make sure that we're successful. And I look forward to any direction of the board. Thank you.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Yeah, follow-up question. I understand that that all has to be researched, whether or not it'd be legal to use any opioid money. But also, I would be interested to know how much is setting available, if that were to be considered, how much do we have essentially in the bank? Because I'm assuming if it turned out it was legal and we had sufficient funds in the bank, this could be changed out later or reconfigured at a later date when that was figured out. And then I'm also, can anybody answer a question about how much we're losing per month and in interest by not having the $2 million in the general fund? Doesn't appear that we'd have that information available.
At 4%, $2 million is $80,000. So that's for the full year.
Per year, 80,000, okay. Thank you.
All right, any other? I will open it up for the public, if there's anyone that would like to speak to this item on the agenda. Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Supervisors. Director Jones, my name's Angela Amaral. Director Jones, I wanted to ask, for residents requiring assistance, is the inability to secure a caseworker or caseworkers a financial issue in your department? If not, what is the current wait time for a caseworker? I just feel that residents may not require necessarily more intense services if they were able to access a caseworker timely. And I don't know if that's a fiscal restriction on your end, or maybe if you can elaborate on that a little bit more for me, please. Thank you.
Hi, Angela. So that's a question with about 20 different questions packed into it, and it may diverge significantly from this agenda item. Certainly the ability to sustain even what we have now, which I agree is not enough to meet the needs of our community, even still with this significant investment. Without an extension of this current loan, we could expect service levels to potentially be impacted. Thank you.
All right, any other public? Lori, you can unmute.
Yes. I don't know if you can see or hear me. Good morning. My name is Lori Carter-Runyon, Executive Director of Hlth Recovery Services. And I've been involved in ODS, CalAIM, and all these changes for some time now. I know that Lake County has been a leader in making these changes. I'm also contracted with Partnership and Sonoma County. I want you to know that Sonoma County has also faced these same struggles with the CalAIM payment reform and the Smart Care transitional for the electronic health record. It was represented as something it did not turn out fully to be. It is working out the glitches, which is something that normally happens when you're doing these kind of great changes. Bigger than that, the CalAIM reform has made it to where substance use providers and mental health providers can actually provide better quality care. It is for the first time starting to address payments that are supposed to, that equal some of the things provided from medical providers, not to the same level, but honestly, a medical director before did not always get funded the same way they are now. So it's opening up to better quality services. With our contract, I know that Lake County and now Sonoma County, when dealing with our residential rates, provided higher rates than some of the other areas or other agencies were doing. And it's helped us be able to employ more qualified workers, again, provide better quality services. When some of our people finish treatment, we don't have much housing, but I have some housing for men's beds that we actually are able to allow them to move into without funding, because it's a missing funding stream at the moment. I mean, there are areas through partial hospitalization and partnership that are doing that, but we put them in for free, allow them to get a job and do outpatient services. And those are only for Lake County residents that we're able to, that we do that for. And we're able to do that because of the Cal-Lane payment reform. The other situation that's really important is, so in these rates, and again, Sonoma County is doing the same, the 65%, that means when the funding does actually start coming in, there's 35% that the county receives from our work and our services. So we get 65% and the county will get 35%. Before, the county was able to get 10% on our services, but we were getting paid $30 a person per group. We were only able to do one individual session. Now we're able to do individual sessions more often. We're able to reach out with peer support specialists.
Lori, if we can wrap up, your 3 minutes is up, but if you can wrap up, please.
Okay, so I just want you to know that even though it is a difficult time, what Lake County Behavioral Health is stating is this money will be coming. The glitches are statewide. It is not just with Lake County Behavioral Health or Lake County itself, and they are making a great difference. So I'm hoping you guys will be patient and look into it a little bit further and grant the continuation of the loan, because I do know also with the opiate settlement funds, I believe Elise Jones is correct that it cannot be used to repay a loan. So thank you for that, for allowing me to put input, and hopefully it works out in our best favor for our community.
All right, any other public input? No. Public, okay, so I'll bring it back. Go ahead, Supervisor Owen.
I was just going to say, if it is legal to go with the opioid, that would be probably my first choice. If not, I'm in support.
Did you want to go ahead?
Well, I'm ready to support this resolution, but I just wanted to clarify if we had consensus to get an answer back on whether or not opioid funding could be.
Well, I know for me, either way, if it's one of the things I just wanted to highlight is over the weekend I mentioned I was at a funeral, and it was in the Lucerne Alpine Park. And I never really had the opportunity to ever sit there and watch the activity in that park. And the activity it just screams at behavioral health 100%. Not only that, just the illegal activity of drugs. There's just no doubt in my mind that's what they were passing around when they were walking by where they were having this event. So, I understand the concern about funding and whatnot, but I don't want to lose continuity on anything. It was really painful to watch that. I'm telling you, just in not being able to do anything about it, and then knowing that I've called law enforcement before, and by the time they get there, this activity's gone. Everybody's gone, and it's just catching someone when they're ready to get the help is what we have to be prepared for. So, for me, I want to make sure we don't lose continuity. I understand the concerns, but I'm ready to support as well. So I don't know if that's what you want.
Well, no, I appreciate you bringing that up, but I'll go ahead and mention that since we talked about that park, there's other parks.
Sorry.
We just had,
Yeah.
nothing. I appreciate that coming up. We had another discussion last week about another park in another district that exactly the same circumstance where it looked to me like, yes, we could use behavioral health at that park. So I agree with, we need to make sure we're able to deal with these concerns.
Could we get a response for the legalities of using the opioid funds? And if that cannot be done, we can go the other route because of the amount of money we're losing on the interest in the general fund.
Lloyd?
So your board may, as referenced by Supervisor Sabatier, may provide direction to staff to look into that issue on whether or not opioid settlement funds can be used in this manner to, as it relates to the loan arrangement. That may take some time because there are specific requirements and provisions under those settlement terms on those opioid settlement funds that are relatively speaking restricted. And so direction can certainly be given to staff as to what's before your board today. It is a resolution essentially requesting an extension from the resolution, and it's amending the resolution that was adopted in June. That resolution involved an appropriation of funds as it relates to the loan taking out of the general fund. That would, for your board's reference, that would require a 4/5 vote.
Is that a question that you can answer when you come back in your 10-week?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think please be broad in how you look at how opioid settlement funds can be used. It doesn't have to be a direct repayment of loan. It could be for the services you're going to provide, and then from your other budget funds that remains, that can be used to pay back. Just because there's creative ways to do accounting so that maybe it doesn't say you can't repay a loan, but it can say you can provide these services using these funds, and then that relieves other funds that were already available. Please be broad in how you interpret and how you see ways that it can be used.
I was thinking the same thing, thank you.
So I hate to throw in one more wrench, and I apologize, it didn't occur to me to say this earlier, but those opioid funds are within substance use disorder land. And this is not that. This is the mental health budget. And so there's even more of a partition, if you will, between those funds. And so that, when we say creative accounting, that makes me very nervous. I would prefer not to account creatively. And that's just our department tends to err conservatively in the way that we operate. And so I am absolutely willing, and we are prepared with Boston Consulting Group to fully evaluate that. We've already started doing some preliminary evaluation, which does not look promising. However, in 10 weeks' time, I can provide a fuller evaluation of that.
If there's not anything else, Lloyd, or, okay.
Nothing further. I'd move to adopt the resolution, which would include approving amendment number 2 to that resolution number 2025-74, which extends the repayment period for the short-term loan in the amount of $2 million from the general fund to Lake County Behavioral Health Services.
Vice Chair, we would offer, I think that's what Lloyd was saying, we would offer it. Yeah.
The resolution can just be offered by your
Okay.
board if that's what's construed by.
That's what I intended.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Owen.
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Nay.
Supervisor Rasmussen.
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska.
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall.
Aye. Resolution passes 4-1.